Hello and welcome. When we launched this show on the 15th of November 2006, our goal was to give you, our many viewers around the globe, a voice and the chance to connect with some of the world's leading newsmakers. We managed to bring on some interesting and amazing people to cover some remarkable topics that go beyond the day-to-day news. So as we come to this, our last show, I thought it might be fun to bring back some of the interesting and intelligent comedians we featured to take a more quirky look at how some key stories have developed over the years. Well, this September marks the 10th anniversary of the terrible attacks of 9/11, which dramatically changed America's relationship with the Muslim and particularly Arab world. One way that the Arab community here in the US has learned to deal with the tension is to unite people of all backgrounds through humour. So I'm honoured to host in the studio the wonderful Maysoon Zayid. Maysoon is a Palestinian-American comedian, actress and philanthropist who used humour to inspire cultural understanding and education. She's also the co-founder of the New York Arab American Comedy Festival and has been a good friend to this show. So Maysoon, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, I heard an American the other day saying he was watching all the news for a change, what was going on in the Middle East, and he said, "I hear the Arab world is revolting." I said, that's a bit racist, isn't it? He said, no, I mean, it's in revolution. So I wonder, when you look at what's been going on, Arab Americans, as opposed to just, non-Arab Americans, how do you think they regard what's been going on in the Arab world?
I mean, I think that every Arab American was excited to finally see Hosni Mubarak fall. I think that was fantastic for us. I don't think Libya has been as much fun for everyone. So I think we feel great that the revolutions are happening, but I feel like we have the same exact uncertainty that everyone else happens. Like, what comes next? You know, when Bush fell and Obama came, we thought it was going to be better. It's not. So we have to sit and kind of wait and see what happens with these revolutions and what's going to happen after it. I know that we're all excited about it. I know I'm very, very excited that Egypt fell, because the last time I came on your show, I told you I was banned in Egypt. And I got a bunch of tweets from bloggers saying I'm welcome back now. So I'm excited about that.
But 10 years since, nearly 10 years since September the 11th happened, and I wonder if it's any easier now, a decade on, being an Arab American living in the US.
It's not easier. I thought it was going to get easier, but for every year we get further away, it seems like the crazy people have multiplied exponentially. I mean, just a month ago, they were in Yorba Linda screaming that we should go home. And I just keep thinking, well, home is New Jersey. How is that helping you if I go and sit in my house, you know? And I don't think it's gotten better. I think it's actually gotten worse. I think it's become a platform in America to go out as a politician and say that you're anti-Muslim, that you're anti-Arab. It's like being anti-abortion suddenly.
Now, in terms of people looking for you, you use humour to unite people. In terms of what people find funny nowadays, what is it that triggers them? I mean, obviously certain things have become old, jokes about Arabs and Muslims, but you must be able to get some material to keep. I
mean, there's so much material right now. Honestly, with the revolutions, it's been exciting to watch, because I think a lot of people within the revolutions themselves used comedy. There were some great posters in Tahrir Square. My favorite being one sign that said, "We're looking for a man with black hair, an egomaniac. If you find him, please send him to the airport." And it was a picture of Hosni Mubarak on a milk carton. They used humor there to really get the message across, and I feel like the humor that works the best when I travel to the Arab world is the political humor. Kind of talking about these dictators, these untouchable people that were so, no one ever made fun of them. If you did, you got kicked out. Now they're fair game. Yeah, and so people love jokes about Mubarak, Gaddafi, who I don't find very funny. They love jokes about Abbas, Barakat, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably coming as an Arab American, coming back, so to speak, it makes it a bit easier. You're not stuck there with having to face the consequences in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have the privilege of being able to go back and forth as I choose. But I was in Palestine doing shows for Valentine's weekend, the exact same time that Hosni Mubarak fell. So I mean, I got to be there, and I hope that they're next.
Do you think
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I do hope they're next.
Well, I guess no.
I think they need to revolt against everybody, because all of their leaders are revolting.
No one really seems to know what's going to happen next, though, do they?
Next?
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to become a democracy like the EU. Women are going to wear short skirts, and the men are going to treat their wives well and not cheat on them. That is revolution.
How long is that going to take?
150 years, inshallah.
So your material will still be there for a while, I think.
Well, they never, ever, ever let me down as far as material.
Well, you know, one thing we did do was we spoke to a couple of other comedians as well. What I want to do here is, earlier when I spoke to comedian and actor Colin Quinn, whose one-man Broadway show, Long Story Short, premiered earlier this month on US television, I was chatting with him, and beyond starring in numerous films, Quinn has appeared on the legendary late-night skit show Saturday Night Live. So I started by asking him why Americans don't tend to watch international news.
Well, because we're so far away from everybody else that it's almost like it doesn't matter to us, because, you know what I mean? Like every other country is bunched up together, so they have to watch the news internationally. But for us, it's like, you know, maybe people in Texas watch a little Mexican news, but that's about it.
I wonder with that, how do we stop, you know, Americans being scared of, you know, of the brown man as a security threat?
Well, I mean, I don't really believe that that's, I mean, I get pulled apart for screening all the time myself, which is ludicrous. Of course, I fly under a fake name, Cat Stevens, so that doesn't help, I know. But I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, everything's, there's two sides to all. I mean, everybody, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like this country is Islamophobic. That's my opinion, you know.
But humor, I guess, helps, and I think that's one good thing is that, you know, people are learning to laugh at stuff a little bit better as well, and you use that a lot in trying to humanize the situations that you've researched, yeah?
Right. I feel like the sad or happy part about it is that past all the surface things that we all, you know, everyone does have distinctive characteristics, because right now this country is very politically correct. The United States, in the sense that, you know, you celebrate diversity but don't point out people are different at any cost. But on the other hand, you find out underneath it all, the sad state of affairs is people are just, you know, same problems. Whoever's in power gets, you know, what they want, and other people are just going to suffer. It just happens in different variations in different places. But no system works yet on the planet.
I know your show that you put together, you and Jerry Seinfeld was producer and director on it, and you guys have a very similar sense of humor. And you know, of course, it's a very popular style of humor. I wonder, in terms of the way you've covered the subjects, it's an interesting, you know, this romp through the history of mankind. It's an interesting topic. How have the audiences responded? What have they really liked about the show?
First of all, Riz, here I am trying to get all these new fans on Al Jazeera. You have to bring Jerry Seinfeld's name into it.
Sorry.
Let's cut this part.
We'll do it.
Just about 80% of the people just turned their TVs off, Riz. Now look, no, I'm kidding. But how did I get him involved, you said?
Well, I was going to say,
I forgot the question.
Like?
I was too busy thinking how
funny
I was
I threw in that bad name and it just distracted you. Now, I was asking you really how audiences respond to that the idea, this idea of a romp through the history of mankind. What it is they really liked about the show.
Well, I think that, thank God, I mean, you know, I've been working comedy clubs my whole life, so when you bring up a subject like history, people start to look at you like, hey, where are the sex jokes, you know what I mean? So you have to really calm them down, go, don't worry, it's going to be funny. And I think what they liked is that it was thematic, and that also that I hit, everybody gets hit. It's comedy, everybody gets hurt, you know?
Colin Quinn there joining us. Now, Maysoon, I was going to say, I asked Colin about this, you know, why Americans don't really watch the news. He says, because it's, you know, it's somewhere else. When you're trying to make, you know, people laugh in this country, of course, you're having to be careful to realize they may not understand many of the references.
Yeah.
How do you get that material together for that?
I'm like a history teacher on crack. I'm telling them as quickly as possible, as much as I can to catch them up, because otherwise, either A, they've never seen the news. You know, I always say my best friend Tina, every single year I go to Christmas in Palestine, every year, I go to Bethlehem. And every single year she says to me, who the hell goes to Palestine for Christmas? And I say, Tina, Mary and Joseph went. You know, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And she looks me dead in the eye and says, no, he was born in the Vatican. So not only are people like miseducated, so you have to kind of correct what they think they know, but some people have no idea what's going on. So I tend to go into the audience and say, like, has anyone ever heard of the Middle East? Have you heard of oil? You know, like, I just try to get a common starting point and kind of go from there. And that's why I love doing stand-up comedy in the Middle East, because in the Middle East I don't have to give people the background. When you say checkpoint, they know what you mean, you know?
Now, of course, you've got a bit of a break in Hollywood too. You were in Don't Mess with the Zohan. You Don't Mess with the Zohan, Adam Sandler's film.
Yeah.
And I wonder what the Hollywood experience was like, because of course there's still, I guess, a lot of stereotypes around, you know, Arabs in general. So is there the kind of opening of minds to give Arabs good parts in Hollywood?
I think it's opening slowly but surely. I mean, very, very slowly. Like when we started the New York Arab American Comedy Festival, every part that was Arab was a terrorist, and every terrorist was played by one of your people. an Indian,
Okay.
sometimes a Mexican, but mostly an Indian. And so we tried to kind of not just change the casting so that they would actually use more Arab American actors, but also change the types of roles that were written. Because back in the day, Arabs were playing Father Knows Best. Danny Thomas, he was the dad. Kathy Najimy was the best friend on Veronica's Closet. Suddenly, we're on Executive Decision, you know, taking over planes. So I think that's changed. And I think what was really cool about You Don't Mess with Zohan was on that film, they were so open to be like, what is the other side? Like, they didn't make any bones about the fact that it was an Israeli favoring film, but they really did want to know what the other side was and tried to be as authentic as they could.
And of course, you started Maysoon's Kids, working with disabled and needy children, refugee children in the Palestinian areas, and you did actually, and I wonder, in sort of working with these kids, how much you find that they've put aside the baggage that much of the older generation carries?
Well, I work with kids in the Middle East. In case your audience doesn't know, I have cerebral palsy, which means I shake all the time. I'm not just nervous because Riz is devastatingly handsome. This is actually a condition. I'm kind of Shakira.
You could be shaking with fear. You never know.
I could be shaking with fear because I do live in an Islamophobic country, contrary to what was just said. Believe me, they are terrified. But I started the charity because the kids in the Middle East weren't getting the shot that I got. Being here in the United States, I was mainstreamed into a public school. I got to go to college. I got to learn how to walk, all those great things. And the kids in the Middle East are given glorified babysitting. They're not sent to school. So what Maysoon's Kids tries to do is integrate kids with physical disabilities into the school system. We send them kindergarten to 12th grade, full scholarships. And if they fail out, we drown them.
Okay. Well, those who survive the drowning, or survive the attempted drowning, do you find that they can put aside the history of the region? I mean, obviously people are carrying baggage in the region, and I wonder if the kids are able to put it aside and get together to live it with a bit more of a unity feeling.
I always say this, if we talk about Palestine, and I can't really talk much about Egypt because I was thrown out the second day I was there, but if we talk about Palestine, these people already coexist. When you drive on the road from Bethlehem to Hebron, you see people hitchhiking. Who's hitchhiking? Settlers. Who's driving the cars? Arabs. If they were that scared, they wouldn't be hitchhiking. But with the kids, they're not getting that. They're not getting the coexistence. They're being isolated more and more than we were as adults when we used to go to the beach and stuff. They don't see Israelis except as soldiers. Right. So it's hard.
So it's even worse, yeah. Well, listen, one man who has made a mark changing perceptions of Arabs in the US is Egyptian-American comedian and actor Ahmed Ahmed. In his latest film, Just Like Us, he documents his trip to 4 Middle Eastern countries, providing, contrary to belief, that Arabs do in fact have a sense of humor. And I began by asking him how the uprisings in the Arab world might have changed America's viewpoint on going in with its military might in order to explain the concept of democracy to other nations.
Well, I think it definitely opened up doors for a bigger discussion. I think sort of what's been happening in the Middle East has, there's a big reflection on the social media that's been involved with this sort of uprising, mass communication, and people being able to connect and talk through Twitter and Facebook and BlackBerry Messenger and stuff like that. So I wouldn't really say, you know, is it American democracy is being imposed, but there's definitely exposure from American democracy where I think people in the Arab world say, oh, well, how come they can have it and we can't? And I think that's why there was a lot of these governments that were overthrown because of awareness.
Well, interestingly enough, it's coming up to the 10th anniversary of those terrible attacks of 9/11. You, of course, are out on the comedy circuit, and you're dealing with a lot of the negative perceptions and views on Arabs and Muslims in general. I wonder to what extent Arabs and Muslims are still the bad guys.
Oh, we're definitely still the bad guys. Unless another race is created, they're gonna pick on us. I think it's like anything. It's like the joke I used to do. You know, after September 11th, hate crimes against Arabs and Muslims went up over 1,000%, which still put us in 4th place behind blacks, gays, and Jews. So I'm like, well, what do we have to do? We can't even win in hatred. But I think that, right on point with what you said. I don't know if it's ever going to go away, but I do know this: people like yourself and myself and these Middle Eastern, Arab, Muslim artists and newscasters and writers and directors are telling their own stories and creating platforms for themselves and for our community where we're not shown in a negative light. And it's really our responsibility, I think. You can blame the media to an extent, but we have to kind of take care of the problem within.
And you have been active. You've got your documentary film coming out, Just Like Us. Tell me about that and how that came together and how that idea might help move things in a positive way.
Well, funny you should mention my film, Riz.
We made this in the poster.
Yeah. Thank you. We made this really cool little documentary. It's called Just Like Us. I took 12 actually, American and international comedians around the Middle East and performed shows in front of thousands of Arabs across the region. In this film, we traveled through Dubai, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. We had thousands of people in attendance, and we shot about 200 hours of footage. We cut it into a 72-minute documentary. We premiered at last year's Tribeca Film Festival, and we're releasing it this summer in theaters. But it's really a celebration of culture and comedy. And it's a side of the Arab world that people don't necessarily get to see.
That's right. And of course, you being based in the US, you do a lot of flying around, and I wonder what your experience going through airports is. Have you had the freedom fondle yet?
Oh yeah, well, I'm like Tom Hanks in Terminal. I kind of live in airports, taking little baths in the bathroom and eating ketchup and crackers. I still have a hard time traveling. I actually don't like to travel.
Yeah. Well, of course,
aside from the actual.
Is these new security checks? As I say, they call it the freedom fondle now, the pat down, the extensive pat down. And I wonder if you had to go through that yet.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the one good thing about traveling, if you're from the Middle East or Muslim, you don't have to go to the doctor to have exams. You can just go right through airport security. You get the x-ray, they do the pat down, they check your pulse. There's the strip search in case you need a little,
Yeah.
extra searching.
Right. Oh, it's interesting because there is still, of course, it is a media thing and there's hype and people trying to posture in position. But Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman, recently said that there is a Muslim problem. And I wonder what you think when you hear things like that.
Donald Trump hasn't been to the Middle East. That's pretty much my case in point. And I think when people, and not even the Middle East, Muslim country, let alone, because there's a difference between Arabs and Muslims, which most people don't even realize. Most Arabs are Muslim, most Muslims aren't even Arab. So I think he maybe, needs to get his head around that, those facts in order to make statements like that. It's a little unfair to say that. That's like saying, we have a problem with dogs, and there's too many dogs on this planet. We have to take care of them. You can't really generalize it. And I think he generalized. I think he does that quite a bit.
How has new media and social media, and you were talking about that at the beginning, but how has social media and new media helped you in changing perceptions?
Well, I don't have an agent or a manager, so any events that I work or gigs or jobs that I book all come through my website because somebody went on YouTube and saw a clip and Googled me and found my Facebook page. It's all interconnected. People find you on the internet. So I think it's helped comedians quite a bit, and it's helped filmmakers and musicians and anybody trying to get their word out. It's had a great impact. Revolutions were started because of social media. Leaders were asked to step down, because of Facebook. Who would have known? Who would have known? Mark Zuckerberg was responsible for all the revolutions in the Middle East.
He didn't know at the time, of course. Do you think there's light?
He didn't know it.
Yeah, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Do you think that there's going to be an end to this madness with these divisions? People talk about a clash of civilizations, but do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
I'm an optimist, so I'm going to say yes. I do see light at the end of the tunnel. I think that there are people out there who care. I think the majority cares. I think people want to learn from other cultures. I think people want to break down misconceptions and create more tolerance and understanding. We live in a world that's got so much information. It's easy to find out about somebody else's culture or religion if you want to. there's actually a woman in our documentary, a Mahajibi woman, who says, you know, with the click of a button, you find the world. And so, you know, it's really just going to be about people taking initiative and saying, I want to learn about, you know, that other person's culture. And if not, then respect it and, you know, agree to disagree.
Well, Ahmed, it's great to talk with you. Hope to catch up with you again very soon, and good luck with Just Like Us.
Thanks, Riz. Good talking with you.
Ahmed Ahmed there. And Maysoon, we were talking about that, the extreme security now going through airports, the pat down, the freedom fondle. Have you had your freedom fondle yet?
I have thankfully not been freedom fondled yet. Ahmed Ahmed tried to freedom fondle me, but my refugee husband punched him in the throat promptly. So not yet, no.
You know, it's I wonder, we look at, Al Jazeera's been on air about 4.5 years. And of course, when we first, you know, launched, there was all the jokes about being the death to America network. Do you think, you know, people are getting a little wiser? And because a lot of people in the US are watching us now on the internet, and we're going sort of more mainstream. But do you think we've got past that image?
You know what? I think you have. And because of that, I think it's my duty to say, death to America. Al Jazeera English has told me to say, death to America.
Thank you. That's really going to help. Thank you very much. But seriously, I think people's perceptions may be changing, don't you think?
I do. I think that definitely when the revolution started, that the mainstream networks here were very slow to pick up on them. And that's what actually shifted people's view to Al Jazeera English. And at least I know English for people in America were watching it to see what was happening day to day, because they just weren't getting what they wanted from the other networks. So I think it's definitely become a station that people turn to see what they're missing from other places, to get the other perspective. But without you, it ain't worth nothing, Riz.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping that, well, of course, you know, Americans by and large are known for not having that many not many Americans have passports. They don't travel. Perhaps this will open their minds a bit and they can get out and about.
I don't think that what's being shown on Al Jazeera motivates people to get passports. I think it's quite the opposite. It makes people just go, that beach in Jersey is beautiful. I really don't need to go to Thailand, do I?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Maysoon, we're pretty much out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this last show and being really a co-host with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just have one last question.
Yeah.
Do you have to go back to India now?
To India? Well, I'll give you that enigmatic Indian answer.
I have no idea what that means.
I don't think most Indian people know what that means. Thank you very much, Maysoon. A big thank you to her. And of course to Colin Quinn and Ahmed Ahmed before that. Well, that's it for the Riz Khan Show on Al Jazeera. And I warmly thank you, our viewers, for being such wonderful supporters of the program with your questions and comments. I hope to see you again soon somewhere. And in another life, if not, you know, this one. So you can keep up with me on Facebook and through Twitter, and I look forward to continuing my interaction and relationship with you all. I also want to use this opportunity to give my deepest thanks to our teams around the world who've made this show such a big hit. The technical crews, the editorial staff, and of course my own excellent show team. And I mustn't forget that the brilliant Indian drummer and musician Ranjit Bharat, whose fantastic theme music for the show really made us quite different. Ranjit, by the way, has just joined John McLaughlin's band, The Fourth Dimension, so congratulations to him. Now, I may sit in front of the camera, but it's the people behind the lens that are the real reason for our success. So let me leave you with some pictures of our folks at Al Jazeera English who really do deserve some recognition. For me, it's not goodbye, simply au revoir.